All right, folks, this next part is what we call our 10-question lightning round. So if you will get your little thumbs ups and downs symbol things, I'm not really sure what to call those. We're gonna have you hold up a yes, and then I'll move on to the next question and say or yes or no, whatever you think the answer is. Okay, so the first question I have to ask you is, does North Carolina law require parental notification if a student asks their teacher or guidance counselor to change their name or pronoun on Infinite Campus school records? Yes or no?
That's more time, please.
Absolutely. Does North Carolina law require parental notification if a student asks their teacher or guidance counselor to change their name or pronoun on Infinite Campus school records? Yes or no? So does the school have to tell their parents? Okay, so I have been told that the answer to this is yes, because Senate Bill 49, known as the Parents' Bill of Rights, was passed in 2023. The rest of these questions are an opinion-based question. There's not like an actual right answer. Would you support a request to the state auditor to review the district's budget? Yes or no? That looks like 5 yeses across the board. Instead of paying teachers a flat 12% regardless of performance, do you support a teacher supplement tied to student achievement, learning benchmarks, and grade level proficiency testing? Yes or no? One more time. I'm going to start reading these twice. Instead of paying teachers a flat 12% regardless of performance, do you support a teacher supplement tied to student achievement, learning benchmarks, and grade level proficiency testing? Yes or no? Okay.
Yes.
You may have just created a qualifying question for later. Jim said I have some free will once we get to that. All right. Would you support, question number 4, and I'm going to read this twice. Would you support stricter disciplinary policies and mandatory reporting to law enforcement when students are physically violent against teachers and fellow students? Again, would you support stricter disciplinary policies and mandatory reporting to law enforcement when students are physically violent against teachers and fellow students? Yes or no? 5 yeses. Do you believe that stricter discipline policies, including zero tolerance for violence or disruptions, are necessary to protect teachers and students? Do you believe that stricter discipline policies, including zero tolerance for violence or disruptions, are necessary to protect teachers and students? Bunch of yeses again. Do you support a board policy under consideration that would add an invocation prior to or at the beginning of a school board meeting? Do you support a board policy under consideration that would add an invocation prior to or at the beginning of a school board meeting? I believe that's also 5 yeses. The Republican Party platform states that we support universal school choice, allowing parents to choose the best educational path for their children, whether public, private, charter, homeschool, or religious schools. Do you agree? Yes or no?
Can you repeat the question?
I can't. Sorry, thank you. I'm supposed to be doing that. The Republican Party platform states that we support universal school choice, allowing parents to choose the best educational path for their children, whether public, private, charter, homeschool, or religious schools. Do you agree? Yes or no? Yes. Odell Primary and Odell Elementary are anticipated to be temporarily capped on Monday night. The district will be moving new students to Carl A. Furr Elementary School. Would you vote to create this cap at Monday night's meeting? I'm going to read it again. Odell Primary and Odell Elementary are anticipated to be temporarily capped on Monday night. The district will be moving new students to Carl A. Furr Elementary School. Would you vote to create this cap at Monday night's meeting? Yes or no? And a no. As we celebrate America's 250th birthday, do you believe educators should provide students with a thorough education in America's founding documents and cultivate patriotism? As we celebrate America's 250th birthday, do you believe educators should provide students with a thorough education in America's founding documents and cultivate American patriotism? 5 yeses. Do you agree with the North Carolina GOP platform to support eliminating the U.S. Department of Education and giving control back to the states and communities? Do you agree with the North Carolina GOP platform to support eliminating the U.S. Department of Education and giving back to the states and communities? Okay, thank you very much. All right, next up, we're moving to phase, I guess this would be phase 3, which is kind of freestyle questions. So, Jim, let me make sure I'm restating the rules right so I understand them.
Yep.
Much less so that you guys understand. I believe what happens is I'm allowed to ask a candidate a question, and I'm not going to just randomly, I'll figure something out. I'm probably going to go in order right down this line, unless you want me to use the numbers again. So I'm going to ask you a question, and then once I ask you that question, you have 2 minutes to respond. If one of the other candidates wants to weigh in on that question, you may do so, but you have to give up one of your poker chips. And Jim will collect your poker chip, and then you have a minute to answer. Do I have that right?
You are correct.
Fabulous. Okay, great. Do all of you understand that?
How many questions?
Well, I believe I have 6 questions total, but there's 5 of you, and so we're probably gonna do 5. We'll see how this goes. All right. So, Miss Allen, you're closest to me, so you're going to go first. What steps would you take as a board member to address challenges in special education funding? I'll ask that again. What steps would you take as a board member to address challenges in special education funding? You absolutely, thank you very much.
Special education funding has become much more prevalent than it needs to be. There is an over-identification of diagnosis to students. And the problem is twofold. One, it costs a lot more to educate a student in a special ed class. I was a special ed teacher. 2 teachers and 12 students. So it is very costly. So to answer that question, I think we need to look at how are we diagnosing students and why are we over-diagnosing them. Every student seems to have anxiety disorder. Why? There's got to be a reason, so I would go back to the beginning and really have these children, we don't have to screen every child, and we don't need to give a label to every child. We just need to provide proper education to them and make sure the parents are involved.
I'll do it. I've got too much energy to just stand still. All right, I saw this was Ms. Portman's chip. All right. Oh, that would help with it.
First, challenges of funding come from the state. Second, as a mom with a student that was an EC student and spent many, many years in tears in IEP meetings, it is not a misdiagnosis. They go through, they have to meet with psychologists. It has to come from the doctor. All these steps, and the thing is, it's not just about, you see, a lot of these kids, I know my son, it is about your executive function, and that's how your frontal lobe works. That means they do not have good memory, they do not have good organizational skills, they are not very well test takers, they need longer time to process. So a lot of these kids, you have to show them what needs to be done, and then they go through, or instead of having tests on a computer where they just click, written tests. But it's not about so much as misdiagnosed, but it's about finding ways that they can learn because they don't all fit in the box. And not every EC student is the same. There are a lot of different variations, but I assure you parents do not want their kids diagnosed as an EC student and they are not receiving any funding for that. But the state, oh sorry. I could talk about that a lot.
I think I saw Mr. Hartsell. Okay. Would any other candidate like to use the chip before we go back to Ms. Allen?
With all due respect, Ms. Wortman, I never said that your child was misdiagnosed. Okay? So, that being said, all you have to look at is the data. The data is out there. I do absolutely agree that if a child has a learning disability or autistic or any of those conditions, that they do need to be met. The question was about the funding. That's what the question was about. So just as we have found lots of money being funneled to other places, we need to look at how we are diagnosing children. That was my point.
Mr. Barnaby, does the superintendent, I'm gonna ask you this twice. Does the superintendent take his direction from the board, or is the Board of Education in place to advance and support the vision of the school superintendent? So second time. Does the superintendent take his direction from the board, or is the Board of Education in place to advance and support the vision of the school superintendent?
The board is in place to hire and fire the superintendent. The vision of the superintendent should be an extension of the school board. And that school board should be supporting the superintendent. Can you not hear me?
Yeah, I need to put the mic up closer.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. But yes, I got off track, sorry about that. But the superintendent is hired and fired by the school board. So the school board is assuming that if it's not doing the job, they're going to hire a new superintendent. And the superintendent serves at the will of the school board.
Would anyone else like to use a chip? All right, I see no one wanting to use the chip. That might mean you guys wind up earning another question based on time. See how it goes. All right, next up, Mr. Hartsell. 100% of traditional public schools still have one-on-one digital device ratios, mostly Chromebooks or laptops. But 77%, or 88 districts, lack dedicated funds to replace and refresh aging or broken devices. Do you believe in encouraging balanced instruction by reducing screen time and eliminating the one-to-one equipment ratio? I'm going to read that one more time also for the audience. 100% of traditional public schools still have one-to-one digital device ratios, mostly Chromebooks or laptops. But 77%, or 88 districts, lack dedicated funds to replace and refresh aging or broken devices. Do you believe in encouraging balanced instruction by reducing screen time and eliminating the one-to-one equipment ratio?
So I don't necessarily disagree that we should, with having one-on-one ratio, but I don't agree that we need to be on it constantly. Elementary school students need to be learning how to write their name, things like that, because simple things. Sit in front of a screen all day. Most of them, that's what they do when they get home. They sit in front of a screen. So for middle school and high school, they do a lot of their work on there. Some classes, it's all of their work. So it's definitely needed, but it has to be used as a tool, not as this is the way we do school.
Jill? All right, you can pass that.
I don't think that primary school children should have a laptop at all. K-3, their job is to explore their environment, tactile learning, learn how to socialize, learn how to fine motor, how to hold a pencil, how to hold a crayon, painting, water play, and moving around, and if necessary, nap time. But laptops should not come into play until they are in 4th grade minimally. And even then, it should be limited. Children need to learn how to write in cursive. They need to learn how to so I would limit it.
Would anyone else like to use a chip before I move on to Mr. Kirk? All right. I'm gonna read this sucker twice again, okay? In facing budget deficits, what program choice options would you cut? And what options are sacred and should never be touched? Repeating. In facing budget deficits, what program choice options would you cut? And what options are sacred and should never be touched?
I don't think I have the knowledge and the depth to explore all the programs that we have to offer in Cabarrus County. So I'm going to kind of defer on that question until I'm better prepared to answer that. That's not a casual question. Any number of programs, I can propose and cons. I can do that kind of stuff. I don't think this is the venue or the place to get into programs that I know either only superficially or don't have the full exposure to. So I'll gladly cede my time. Thank you, ma'am.
Would anyone else like to use a chip? Ms. Ward. Today, roughly 23% of school-age students living in Cabarrus County do not attend a Cabarrus County school. Do you support the General Assembly's recent action to expand opportunity scholarships so that more Cabarrus County families have options to select a private, charter, or homeschool that best meets their child's needs? That's the first question, is do you support that action? The second question is it possible for our public school system to work with the private sector to help alleviate overcrowding and the financial challenges it faces? All right, I'm gonna read that again. Today, roughly 23% of school-age students living in Cabarrus County do not attend a Cabarrus County school. Do you support the General Assembly's recent action to expand opportunity scholarships so more Cabarrus County families have options to select a private, charter, or homeschool that meets their child's needs? And part two, is it possible for our public school system to work with the private sector to help alleviate overcrowding and the financial challenges that it faces?
So on the first part, with the opportunity scholarship, yes, I am in favor of that. I think every family should have the right to choose what they think is best for their child and which school they think it's best to learn in. My sister actually uses the opportunity scholarship for two of my niece and my nephew. They go to a private school in Charlotte, so I'm in favor of that. Also, I do not know a whole lot about how the private public sector would work for public schools, but I do not think it is a bad idea to look into that and see how it can save, especially if it saves money while we need to build schools, or if they have programs that we can kind of overlap to be able to share resources. I definitely would be willing to have conversations in collaboration with that.
Would anyone like to use a chip?
Yes.
Mr. Barr.
On the matter of education, does anybody know what Pearl Innovation is? Wow. Pearl Innovation is a program that will be working with Jay and Robinson. They will be taking 30 kids 1 day a week to go over to work with the new medical school in Charlotte. And they'll prepare those children for jobs or college once they graduate. They're starting with freshmen and sophomores. And oh, by the way, it's not a cost to any taxpayer for this. Pearl is paying for transportation and all. So there are programs out there that really work. And we need more of these type of programs, working with companies and all.
Would anyone else like to use a chip? Okay, seeing no chips. We are going to go back and revisit some of the things that, many of our prior questions had agreements with them. So Ms. Allen, we're gonna start back with you. One of the yes, no questions that we asked was, instead of paying teachers a flat 12% regardless of performance, do you support a teacher supplement tied to student achievement, learning benchmarks, and grade level proficiency testing?
I believe I did answer yes to that, and the reason being is because I do believe in rewarding excellence. In any business that sees productive employees, they're going to give them raises, they're going to give them bonuses. School, I'm sorry to say, but it is a business. I mean, we do pay for the education of our children. So I would like to see recruitment of teachers, and I do believe that when teachers are going, there's got to be a level of competition so that teachers don't become stale. And I'm sorry if some of the teachers at the bottom might be crying about this, but they should be wanting to get better so that they can help your children.
Would anyone like to use a chip? Okay. Seeing no chips. Mr. Barbie, recently Cabarrus County High School students participated in protests against the federal ICE operation known as Charlotte's Web. Do you think it was wise to allow students to engage in these activities during instructional time? I'll read it again.
Don't need to.
No?
No, they should not be allowed to participate in that during school hours.
Did everybody catch the question and the answer? All right, I'm just gonna reread the question and the answer because I did hear somebody not hear it and I don't want that. So the question was, recently Cabarrus County High School students participated in protests against the federal ICE operation known as Charlotte's Web. Do you think it was wise to allow students to engage in these activities during instructional time? Mr. Barbie said, you do not need to repeat that question. The answer is no, they should not be able to do that. Mr. Hartzell, this is kind of a second follow-up question to the question we just asked Mr. Barbie about ICE. Students are demanding an immediate vote on board policy to prevent ICE from stepping foot on school property without a warrant, training school staff on anti-ICE protocols, and creating school rules where students are legally protected. The rights of students are fundamentally protected, and that ICE is held responsible if they escalate on school premises. If you were on the board, what would you say about such a policy involving ICE? I believe the official name of that is called Project Shield.
Ultimately, I think that we have to, as a school district, you have to support what the federal government's doing. Can there be a sensible way, ethical way to do things? Absolutely. And that is the kind of policy that we should have, but we should definitely support what the federal government is doing.
Would anyone like to use a chip? I see one from
I'm struggling with the word allow. A campus needs to be a safe place for our mission is to ensure that 44,250 students are educated in our schools. I've got to ensure safety and protection, not only from the loony out there with a high-powered rifle doing damage to our schools, but I think any external force that creates discomfort lack of security and safety, lack of concentration on both the students and the educators' part. I'm concerned for that. If students' need are staying home and not coming to school for fear of being hauled away, I've got problems with that. And yes, we can address it through well-reasoned policies and good wording. I just have a hard time with the word allow, as if we're inviting ICE to come in.
Would anyone else like to use a chip? Seeing no chips. Dr. Kirk, back to you. I can tell you, as chair of the Child Protection and Fatality Team, that we have had an increase in student suicides in recent years. I told all of you when I began that I have chaired the Child Protection and Fatality Team for 13 years. For 10 of those years, we have not had a student suicide at all. And then we've had a lot of them recently and several within the last few months. Could you please speak to the importance of school social workers in preventing student suicide and aftercare when a student does complete suicide in the school building?
It breaks my heart when a student takes a shortcut. A long-term solution to a short-term problem. I see that military community with 44 suicides a day. I see that in our kids, increasing level of suicide. It is absolutely critical that we have the right kind of social workers, the number to support our student population. And I remember the days at Robinson when there were maybe 1,200 students and 4 counselors. Do the math. Who's going to fall through the cracks? So I strongly support an increase in mental health awareness, mental health prevention, and I don't know the answer. If I knew the answer, I'm sure I wouldn't be running for board. I don't know the answer other than ensuring that teachers, educators, support staff, it's amazing how many of our custodial staff are aware of students' problems and educators are not. There's a connection that our SROs make with our students are absolutely critical. So an awareness of what we're looking for is absolutely critical to staving the suicide, increase in suicide among our kids. And parents too. Many parents never were aware that their kids were heading down this path. And so parents need to be plugged in to what their kids are plugged into.
Would anyone else like to use a chip? Oh, no, I didn't. That's right, I have to ask the question. Ms. Wortman, many of our local high schools have reading proficiency ratings that are less than 60%. Have you ever considered the connection between low reading proficiency and high school student mental health? I'm going to ask that one more time. Have you ever considered a connection between low reading proficiency among our high school population and student mental health?
I definitely think that it does play a role, because when a student sits in class and they can't read, well, that also falls over into math. They can't do word problems, and then they struggle, and then they act out in class for some sort of attention. And I think a lot of issue is it was brought to my attention, I didn't realize this till the other day, that the state actually allows the student to be several years behind in reading. Like, that's allowed as they get to move on. And so when they have that low self-esteem in class and they find other ways to deal with it and they become in high school, well, then they start going to the wrong crowd, or they find other things to deal with their anxiety in class. And so it rolls over into a lot of issues. So I think when they don't have a good foundation where they feel like they are adequate enough, or that they kind of feel as smart as their peers, then it definitely does. And that's why I also believe in other pathways, because some students just aren't good at reading and math and those things. So they also need hands-on learning, trade. Not everybody has the same style of learning, But a student that cannot read, cannot do good in math and other things, and they fall into trouble. I've seen it happen with my kids' friends, so it's.
Would anybody like to put Jeff? So we're going to have one final yes/no question, if you can get your yes/no binders back. And then we'll let you guys give us all the closing minute. All right. The Cox Mill bathroom situation. Would you vote that students need to use the bathroom of the gender they were assigned at birth? Yes or no? Yeses across the board. All right, well, it looks like my work here is almost done. But I'm gonna start with Miss Allen and let you each have 1 minute for closing comments.
Well, thank you for that last question, because that eliminates something I did want to say in my closing comment. What I really would like to have you understand about schools is that we have the potential in this county of having excellent schools. What we need to do is go back to the basics, where discipline, now let me just explain, because discipline has become a bad word, and tolerance has replaced discipline. When we tolerate things, we create an unpredictable atmosphere for these children, which increases anxiety. So when you have a culture, an atmosphere, where students know the structure, where there's a structure in place, where there's an expectation of excellence, where we don't move students on by social promotion, so by the time they get to 6th grade, they're only reading at a 3rd grade level. It doesn't make sense. Policies are not laws. Policies are easy to change, and that is the purpose of a board. We don't need to go along with business as usual, and I need to stop.
What we need for our schools is to set high expectations for all students. We need equitable resource allocation, strong support for our educators, family and community engagement, safe and respectful school climates.
I believe strong schools build strong communities. And as someone who has lived, worked, coached, and raising a family right here in Cabarrus County, I understand the challenges facing our students, teachers, and families. And I'm ready to be a voice for them. I hope I can earn your vote.
We have a very complex school system, and sometimes these questions that come across here, perhaps we answer glibly with a 2-second soundbite, and doesn't really go deep enough. So I invite you to continue to ask these good questions. I absolutely enjoyed this evening, even those that, quote, stump me. Some things you can answer in 2 minutes or 30 seconds. So thank you again for the opportunity to be here tonight. It is a complex situation, and not everything is necessarily thumbs up or thumbs down. So work with the school board as parents, as educators, as support staff, as law enforcement. Work with the school board to make sure that we've got a sound, solid, safe school system for your kids, for your grandkids. We need your support. Thank you.
I'd just like to say, as we're talking about everything that needs to change and what needs to be done, that we not also forget how good our school system is, and the program choices that we have, and the great teachers that we have, and that it's a board that we also need to be able to secure those things and to keep what's good about our schools and to keep the good staff that we have. There's a lot of policies that need to change, parents need to get involved, safety needs to happen, but we also need to continue the path that we're on and keep all the good that we have too. And if anybody has questions, please do not assume that you know my answers or you may know me, but ask questions and I will feel free to talk to whomever.
Can we all just give these folks another hand?